Yay! Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the World News Network Saturday live stream. I hope y'all are doing super well. Let me know if you can't hear me, just in case, because I haven't used this mic in a while. So hopefully it's not on the off button. It doesn't seem to be. So that's good. So guys, yay, welcome and good morning. Wow, 260 of you already. So yes, so we have Evelyn and G. Barrett, good morning. Daryl from Canada, good morning. Sharon from Australia. Oh my goodness, it is late there. Good morning or evening. I'm not sure. Barbara, Kaziaz, good morning. Christine, Harriet, B-level baby, and we have a special guest, Miss Pippa. So if you guys don't know, my dog Pippa, she broke her elbow several weeks ago, and so she's still recovering. But she's doing so much better, and she's got a soft cast now instead of a splint. So she is doing a lot better, and so she'll be getting back up to her normal routine here pretty soon. Hopefully in the next week or two, she'll be out of that. So good morning. So many people on here already. And yes, we are planning on talking about Harry's memoir and all the crazy, insane leaks we've gotten. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at my video where I go through, just scroll through the New York Post and all their leaks that they had. So this has been just an absolutely crazy deluge of information from Harry's book about the bridesmaids fitting. We have Harry's time in the military. We have his drug use. He took psychedelic mushrooms, cocaine, and marijuana, apparently all around the same time. So that's great advertisement there for a drug-free lifestyle. And just so many other things that we've gotten from Harry. And it's just been really, really shocking, the information that's in this book, because I don't think either Harry or Meghan come across well in it at all. So this has been, in so many ways, I feel like one gigantic train wreck. And I feel like the rollout now, because it's leaked, although I'm sure the book publisher likes the publicity, I'm sure Harry and Meghan's team are incensed, because this does not look good for Harry and Meghan. They couldn't nuance some of the things and everything. So as somebody explained, that as Harry is doing these interviews and as these interviews air, it'll be a question of, do we trust Harry? Do we trust Harry's recollections? And at this point, honestly, after reading a lot of the comments and everything, or a lot of his reports in the book and everything, he comes across as very, very dim. So I don't think we'll see more of that. And so I feel like people will discount him even less. But you guys haven't been here to a live stream before because it's been a couple weeks. So I just go through and I try to find as many comments or questions as I can. So it's questions. And if you have a comment that catches my eye or something we can discuss, I'll do that. If it's easiest if you have like a question, because I know some people start having comments in the thread, which is awesome. Just go ahead and put it in all caps, because that helps me find it. So I just see here, Stephanie real quick asks, how can King Charles be forgiven after all Harry has said? What do you think should happen? So this is an interesting question. Sorry, I'm going to lean this down. I do feel immensely sorry for Charles and William. They are the true, I feel like, victims in this whole scenario, of victims of Harry's pettiness, his vindictiveness, his hatred and jealousy. And it's something neither Charles nor William can control. They can't control that they are the king and the Prince of Wales. As much they can control that as much as Harry can control that he's the spare. Like, that's just life. And I think every person in life, we all live under hierarchies. We all live under people who have authority over us. And so it's learning how to live with that is the key, and learning how to be mature and accepting, where you are. And that's the hierarchy Harry lives under, or lived under. And so I think if Charles is a decent man, and, if he is, actually believes in his Christian faith, I think he can forgive Harry. The question is, what will they do beyond that? What can they do beyond that? Because you can never fully trust Harry again, to a certain extent, the family. I don't know if they'll ever fully trust him again. I don't think William will ever fully trust him again. I'm wondering already if William actually, through his marriage from Catherine, was actually starting to distance himself slowly from Harry. Not that he didn't love his brother, not that he didn't care for his brother, but you almost get the sense of William being, I think, sick of perhaps some of Harry's immaturity and those sorts of things. And so he clung to the Middleton family because he loved their stability, that he loved their togetherness, he loved their family unit, and he clung to that, whereas Harry is just wild and all over the place. And so I feel like perhaps that separation was always coming. I don't know if William can forgive Harry. I hope he can, just because I feel like forgiveness is a great step to healing and reconciliation. But they cannot accept Harry into the fold as long as Meghan's in the picture. They can't. They can't, because everything for her is about what she can get from it. So unfortunately, I think that can't happen. So I do feel sorry for Harry in that respect, because he is very defensive of his wife, which to a certain extent is good as a husband, but also I feel like it's coming from a place of not understanding like that he also needs to be respectful of his family, and that Meghan has done everything humanly possible to destroy his family. And Harry, I think, refuses to acknowledge that. So I think again, forgiveness can happen. Charles, you don't want to end your life hating somebody or distancing it's just not healthy. So I just hope for everyone that they can have some sort of reconciliation. But again, I feel like what Harry and Meghan want is a groveling apology, which they do not deserve. And I feel like the monarchy needs to keep that separation as long as Meghan's in the picture, because Meghan is all after it for Meghan. That's all she cares about is Meghan. So that's what I think. Oh, Sharon, thank you so much for the tip. You are so kind. And I know I saw another one here. And Dolores, thank you so much as well. 2 tips. Thank you. You are so sweet. I really do appreciate it. This has been so fun. I love these morning chats. I'm so sorry I missed last week. I was just so, I guess, on break brain and New Year's Eve and stuff. I didn't even realize it was Saturday until 12 a.m. on Saturday morning. And I was like, well, maybe not. Okay, so Renee Nowak asked, can the book release be canceled and Harry lose his paycheck? No. The company has already printed like 1.4 million copies. So they're already in the hole. They have to sell it. And again, the book publisher doesn't give a crap about Harry's relationships. They don't give a crap about his reputation. Doesn't mean anything to them. They just want it to sell. And at this point, it will sell. The question is how much it will sell. I think that's a huge question. But I feel like, again, this idea that it needed to be, they need their money. And that's what I think Harry perhaps maybe failed to realize when he was maybe hedging after the Jubilee, is that once you sell your soul to a company, they own you. They've given you money for a product. You need to produce that product. Otherwise, they'll come out after you legally. And that might have been what Harry was told. I was like, they're going to come after you legally if you don't do it. And he's like, okay. And then you also got the thing where, if this is true, I think this is rather despicable, is that Harry was told not to publish it until after the Queen's death. So he deliberately, perhaps maybe it could have been published earlier, and he deliberately waited until after the Queen's death to release it. As if, I mean, just think about it, just how cruel to the rest of his family. So Cindy Lou says, sadly, I watched the commentary on the TV show The View, and they had no clue. They didn't even research it, and they believed every word of Harry's book. Brittany, don't journalists do research anymore? The answer is no. American journalists are so bad anymore. That's part of the reason why I started my channel, because it's like I felt like we were always getting a very sanitized version of what was going on in royal circles. And yeah, you don't want to lean too much into sensationalism, but I feel like there's so many more nuances to royalty. They're not celebrities, and that's what Americans treat them as, is celebrities. And I don't know if I can articulate this idea well now, because I had it before and this situation is different, but this situation could happen in like celebrities if the celebrity who has the power is trying to push back against family members. I feel like this situation would work better. So for example, like Britney Spears writing an autobiography against her dad. Well, Britney Spears has more power than her dad does, at least in the cultural context. When it comes to Harry and Meghan, they have no power, really. The crown is the power. And so they look, I think, even more weak trying to push against it the way they have with their memoir, because at the end of the day, the crown is the power, not them. The crown is. So it's just kind of interesting to consider. As I commented on another channel, is Harry not thinking about what will happen when, not if, they get divorced? Where will he go? Will he be welcomed back to the UK? This is Rocker DDM. Thank you for the question. And No, I don't think so. I don't think either him or Meghan think that far ahead. They really thought their whole Megxit plan would go exactly as they planned it. Like, and that is lunacy that they thought that. They literally, if you go to sussexroyal.com, they list their demands on that website. Now, you may have to go to the Wayback Machine to get the original version, because on the original version, they did say they wanted that internationally protected person status. So you may have to go back to that. But it was just fascinating to like read through it, and like they're just list of demands. And it was like, are you guys nuts? No, that's not how this works. You can't just say we're going to do our own thing most of the time, come back when we want to. We're going to travel around on the government's dime representing the Commonwealth and the Queen. It's like, no, because I mean, it basically came across as we want taxpayer-funded vacations. We want taxpayer-funded security. We don't want to do anything that we don't want to do, but we want all the perks associated with X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not how this works. Because you do need to give something to get something. That's just life and logic. But life and logic seem to be missing from Harry and Meghan's vocabulary. So I think, again, I think Charles is preparing for the inevitable. I think he is preparing to welcome Harry back in terms of Harry will come back. I think they know for a certain that perhaps Harry will be welcomed back into the family, but he won't be a working royal, I don't think, because his kids, he'll have to stay in the United States. He can't go back to the UK. Meghan won't let him take the kids back to the UK. No way. Unless it benefits her in some way, like the custody agreements, their kids will be raised and grow up in California, even if they divorce. So I think the royal family is preparing for him to inevitably come back, but it remains to be seen how that will actually look. And again, I don't know if he can even be a working royal. He's not at least as toxic as Andrew is. And at least Andrew has been respectful in his exile. he tries to get back in, but he's not like Harry and Meghan, like totally trashing his brother or something. So I feel like that's good. At least he seems to have a respect for the institution. Harry doesn't have that. So it'll just be interesting to see how that comes to play and how they're able to manage that. But they're definitely getting ready for it. Oh, Peggy Cole, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, especially on a Saturday morning. I know some people come in here and get on super early, so I do appreciate it. Cookie Toots asks, what kind of ghostwriter would sign an NDA about not writing a book? I don't know. I didn't quite hear the details about that, but it would. Yeah, so Harry's ghostwriter, I mean, as far as I can tell from some people, at least, it doesn't seem like it's... Well, what was interesting, I can't remember if it was the Times or the Telegraph, somebody was saying, is they had to, like, rewrite it in, like, British English. That Harry was so, like, California-ized that they had to redo it and, like, try to actually make him sound English. Which is kind of funny when you think about it. It's like, he should be the English of all English. So... But apparently not. So, all right, guys. Sorry, I was starting at the top here. Going to just start scrolling through here and see if I see any pictures. Oh, thank you so much for the get well messages for Miss Pippa. She's sleeping now on the couch. And so I have to watch her and make sure I get her off carefully and she doesn't get hurt. So Jacqueline asked, do you know something about that ghostwriter was fired and Meghan finished the book? I haven't heard that. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. This is the thing that gets to me. I don't know who's dumber, Harry for writing the book or Meghan for letting Harry write the book. Because she comes across as awful. It's like, do we really need to know that Meghan communed with seals and his mother's gravestone and that Harry was dumb enough to jump in the water with killer whales? Yeah, no. Like, why would we need to know that? And why would that help us, like, connect to Harry and Meghan? It just doesn't make any sense. And it could definitely be that Meghan helped write and finish the book. I mean, they both have control issues. That did come out in an article in the Times. Is like, Harry, they were discussing the book or something, and a child walked through the background, and Harry wanted that one of those, the executive, I can't remember the position title, but he wanted this person off his book, like immediately, just because a child walked through the background. So they have enormous control issues. And so if somehow in some way they did get rid of whoever was the author of the book, again, that would not be a surprise to me. Aw. Kristen asks, hi, Pippa. So Pippa's my Yorkie. She's hanging out over here, and she's like, how old are you? How much do you weigh? So she is 6 years old, and she weighs about probably 8 pounds. She weighed 9 there for a bit, 8 pounds. So she's really cute. She's a good girl. So Crazy Assets, just watch the View's take on this debacle. Only one sensible opinion that wasn't berating the RF and the British. Yeah, I mean, and again, Meghan is playing off the American ignorance of royals and how they function. Because, I mean, her saying that she rolled up to meet the Queen, and when she was told she would meet the Queen, she was like, yay, I love grandmas. And I'm like, she sounds so juvenile. She loves grandma. So she wanted to deal with the royals, I feel like, always as a family, which I somewhat understand. And she didn't want to do any of the reverence or respect for anybody. And that's my take on it. Okay, so I feel like we're going to scroll down. Oh, lots of things I may have missed. Okay, so sorry. We're going to go here. Mary, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. And we have Tony Gungskal as well. Thank you so much. And then we have Duchess of Tub. Or like Meghan, Duchess of Tub. The king needs to make a move now. I think he does. I think he should let the government take the initiative, and if they're going to strip Harry and Meghan of their titles, go ahead and do so, and let the government take the directive on that. I think that's the way to go. AKC asks, could the RF take Frogmore Cottage away from them? I think they could. Again, if you go with the notion, or perhaps the supposition, that Meghan, and Harry are in a somewhat of a toxic, perhaps you could say almost emotionally abusive dynamic, the monarchy could always perhaps want to have him, accessible to Frogmore Cottage in case he decides that he does want to leave and come home. But again, and it gives them the security they're so desperate for, even though Harry destroyed his own security by talking about killing people. Yeah, so that was not smart. But yeah, I think Frogmore Cottage could be taken away from him. Peggy Cole says, can't the king order the children back to the UK under royal rule? So technically in the British monarchy, how it works is that technically the guardian of the children of a certain level or rank in that line of succession is technically the king or the queen. So the queen actually technically had guardianship over the Wales's children, and then, or the Cambridge children as they were at the time. So the king technically now has some guardianship power over the Wales's children, but nobody really, I don't think, fully subscribes to that notion. I think it's more of a deference and respect if we ask, A, B, and C. And then you also got to think as well is that it would look terrible if Charles ordered Harry back or the kids back or something. That would just look terrible. From a PR perspective, he can't do it. I understand why people would want him to, but he just can't do it, unfortunately. No, I just don't think it'll go over well. So, Christy says, super sticker. Hi. Thank you so much, Christy, sorry. I was looking for a second. The live stream numbers were 2011. I was like, oh, that's when Kate got married. Sorry, I was being a little goofy there. All right. And Orchid, thank you so much for the tip. Thank you. I miss so much. Sharon, thank you so much for the tip. You are so kind. Oh gosh, you guys are so great. This has always been so fun. And it's all thanks to you guys, because I feel like this goes by so fast and so well. And I always feel like I miss a bunch of questions, but we will try the best we can. All right. Harry's on something emotionally and mentally unstable. Honestly, he doesn't look necessarily well. He was talking about red mist and communing with dead people, which is not generally a great idea, in my personal opinion. That may be just me. So yeah, it's not a great for sure. So Elaine, thank you so much for the tip. You said happy to finally make a live. I hope folks understand that The View is not representative of Americans. Yeah, so if you don't know what The View is, I should have prefaced this. So it's a show now that was formed around by Barbara Walters, and the point of the show was to show women of different perspectives. But it has become this incredibly toxic television program. If there is they usually try to have one lone conservative on there, and that person is just blasted every day. They just deal with basically constant abuse from the other members. And you have Whoopi Goldberg making statements basically that, you know, the policy of the German military from 1939 that could probably not be named, that Oprah Winfrey, you know, basically says, well, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't a racist thing because it was, you know, whites attacking whites. That's literally what she said. You can look it up, and she said it twice now. And she got suspended, and then she came back. So anyways, they're just, I feel like you're dragging like the dredges of American society if you watch, if to get like the views perspective. Like, I don't even know how it's still on the air because it's just so, like, I don't know who would watch that show. I don't know who would watch that show, honestly, because it's just not even the premise of having different perspectives, not only recognized, but respected, is non-existent on that show. Unless you are liberal, you will be attacked endlessly. And so I just feel like why even a show like that would exist? It's just awful. It's just really, really awful. All right. And Leslie, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. Oh my goodness. I really appreciate it. And Mary as well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Dolores says, I'm sure all the questions are pre-screened for anyone who interviews Harry. Yes, so they've all been pre-screened, and the fact that Harry still looks terrible in it is just hugely indicative of either how bad his PR team is now, which I feel like is mostly Harry and Meghan. They have somebody in-house now, because he should have been, like him being asked, well, you know, he was asked the question of, you know, you're violating your own brother's privacy, and you're railing about privacy. Isn't that hypocritical, is essentially what he's being asked. And Harry goes, when you go like this, and I've done it from time to time in videos too, you're searching for an answer, and it just makes you look, it's just not a great look for somebody who's being interviewed to go, I'm trying to think of the answer, so I'm going to look at here and then go into whatever. It's that stuff should have been drilled out of him by the time he did any of those interviews, because it's just not a good look. But again, maybe they tried to help him and he didn't good. So guys, I'm going to have a little bit of hot cocoa for my Starbucks mug here. And I haven't gotten back and gotten some Whittard's hot chocolate, which makes me sad. Not yet. Whittard's hot chocolate, guys, is my favorite. It's from the UK. It's super good. Unbelievably good. So Peggy Cole says, especially if the king titles the children. So this is, so I probably missed some of the, but yeah, so yeah, if the king titles the kids, then they should be in the UK. My suggestion to Charles and the rest of the royals has been for a bit is the titles, amend the letters of patent to say that only if the kids are in the country do they get those titles. Kids living in California do not need those titles. That's just stupid. That's just stupid. They don't need it. They're going to live in California. They're going to grow up in California. That's going to be their frame of reference is LA and Montecito and Santa Barbara and, going to Hermes and getting their credit cards declined. That's going to be what their future holds. I think so. The kids don't need the titles. I wouldn't maybe not be I wouldn't necessarily be like super against the titles. If they were still in the UK, still working royals, I think that would be fine. Although, again, this is not the direction most of Europe is going. So obviously we've seen after the new year, so the Queen of Denmark stripped the prince and princess titles from her youngest son. So she has two sons. Her younger son, his children now are counts and a countess instead of princes and a princess. So they've amended it, taken those titles away. In Sweden, those kids are still, of the king's second and third child, are still princes and princess, but now they're not an HRH, so his or her royal highness. So that means people don't have to curtsy to them. So all of Europe is streamlining to focusing on just the main line of succession. And so that would have been always the case. And I think the difference with the UK and other countries, so like Denmark and those sorts of things, is that the UK is so much bigger in terms because it has a Commonwealth. So, and Charles is head of state of like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and other countries, but those are like the big three. Those are really big countries. And so the British royals, I feel like, do generally need more. So that's why the idea that Charlotte and Louis will not be working royals, I think is not going to happen. They're both going to be working royals. I have no doubt they're going to be working royals. So Stud Muffin says, Did I read about the miscarriage? I didn't end up reading about the miscarriage, but I read a bit. I will say I read a bit, and I see that some people are thinking that it does ring false. I haven't experienced that, so I'm not sure. So I'd have to go with somewhat the wisdom of the crowd there. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just they're just so weird and so over the top. I thought was interesting. Something kind of funny is that, Harry wanted to be, in there helping deliver a little bit because he wanted his face to be the first one she sees. And I'm like, the baby can't really see yet, right? Like their eyes are just, they can see shapes, but not really like your actual face. Anyways, just throwing that out there. Well, Cece, thank you so much for the tip. You are so kind. Sorry, guys, I'm scrolling through because I know I've missed a couple. Elaine, oh yes, so we did get, and Leslie here, we did get you earlier. I was thinking if they were divorced. So this is from Peggy. Yes. So yeah, if they were divorced, the kids would, let me go back up. Yeah. So again, Charles can, he does have certain custodial power over the kids, but I don't think he'd ever exercise it. And I don't think he'd exercise it much with Catherine and William. But I think the thing he does need to do which a lot of people are saying is that he needs to actually, say to William, you cannot fly with all your kids at once anymore. You need to actually start taking separate flights because this is a constitutional issue. If something happens to the Waleses, heaven forbid, Harry and Meghan would become king and queen technically. And basically the UK would become a republic immediately. Nobody would want them. So yeah. Okay. So Suga Cookie, thank you so much for the tip, says Harry doesn't understand the meaning of personal responsibility. He really doesn't. That whole story about the German uniform and like Catherine and William was like, I always think they were just kind of joking and telling him, yeah, hey, nudge, nudge, go ahead and wear that uniform. And like as a joke or like sarcasm or something. Or they were like, is he really asking that? We'll just say yes, because, maybe they were thinking it was a joke from him. It was like, well, which one should I wear? And they're like, well, wear that one. And obviously it was a massive, massive error. It was a huge error. And Harry just doesn't take any responsibility for it. I mean, we don't know the full context, so he might explain more later. But I just feel like nothing is taking full accountability. Even when challenged by Meghan's behavior, Harry, cowers and kind of, doesn't really address it the way he should in so many ways. And so I just do feel like that's quite sad. Swim Mom, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Jacqueline as well. Thank you so much. And then I see up here, Mad Eye says, I heard from the body language guy, H&M buried their unborn baby at an undisclosed location. Is that true? In the book, I thought M had a miscarriage, and who on earth can believe that story? So, you can't ask for, if you have a miscarriage or a stillbirth or something like that, you can't ask for the baby to bury the baby. I'm a fan of that. I think it helps with, the process of grief and closure and everything. And so you can have the child buried, of course. And so I think that can happen. I think as I understand it, somebody who had a miscarriage who was a friend of Diana's, her child is buried on one of the palace grounds, I believe. So I think that can definitely be true. Now, somebody says that they just walked out of the hospital with it. Now, those things I don't know. But yeah, like if I had a miscarriage, I would want, regardless of what happened, I would want my baby, and I'd want to have, a burial and perhaps some sort of remembrance or something. I'm not just going to let them, dispose of my baby as medical waste. So I'm with, if you can say I'm with Team Harry and Meghan there, I'm with Team Harry and Meghan and Harry there. Okay, so Jen Adams, super sticker, thank you so much. Oh, shush. Sorry. Miss Pippa barked there for a second. I didn't want her to get up and jump off the couch because she's still recovering. Question, due to his comment about the war, will he be deemed too much of a security risk to come to the coronation now? I mean, that's a huge question. It really is. And it was just such a dumb thing for him to put in there. Vagueness would have been key in that scenario. Like, why couldn't you be vague? You could have just been vague. Just could have said, I know I killed people. You don't have to tell us the number. I'm fine not knowing the number. I'm fine with not knowing, if I had a friend or something like that who was killed, or sorry, not who was killed, who was a soldier really, and I wouldn't, beg them, or sorry, let me backtrack here. So I have a great uncle who fought in World War II. And I guess I was able to talk to him a bit about his service. He served in the Pacific. And I was able to ask him a bit about this, but would I grill him about the number of men that he thinks he killed? No, absolutely not. I would never, ever do that. And it was just such a dumb thing for him to say, to be that specific. And those things are something maybe you should talk about in a group chat. But not only is he now a security risk, he's a security risk and just a risk in general for the Invictus Games. He puts a terrible, face on soldiers. He's disobeying what, he is called to do as a soldier. So it's just like, I don't know what lunacy, again, I don't know what points that he thought that would gain him by saying that. I don't know. I just don't understand what he was thinking something like that would gain him. I just think it's just utterly silly. The box with Diana's hair, just weird, and clearly his grief is not normal. So yeah, I did think the hair box was weird. But I also, I understand it, but I feel like Meghan putting what I get is, I understand having that lock of hair because that is, a way to remember somebody. So I don't fault him for that. What I do think is weird is Meghan putting her pregnancy tests, the things that she peed on top of his mother's hair to give to Harry. That's what I find weird. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's just a dub. U.S. Constitution has a clause removing royal status. Yes. So I don't know why Harry and Meghan. Yeah. So if Harry wants to live here, then yeah, he needs to get rid of that. Barbara, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. And we have a question here. Vicky Spears, is it true that her brother said to not leave her around animals or children? I know her parents and brothers and everything have said lots of things. I don't believe all of it. But I do think Harry and Meghan are just incredibly toxic. Well, Meghan especially is an incredibly toxic person. And, her dog did break both of his legs. Although I will say I love my dog and she broke her elbow. So but she fell off my bed in the middle of the night. And yeah, it was terrible to hear her. I could actually, I have a recording because I have a sleep app and I could hear her crying on it. Cause I woke up and it was 2 a.m. and I was like, am I really hearing that? I'm not even sure if that's what I'm hearing. And so I was able to replay it. And I was yes. And I was trying to figure out, is she okay? So yeah, we went to the emergency vet. It was a long night. But yeah. Barbara, again, thank you so much for the super sticker. Oh, and JJQ3, $20. British MI5 and MI6 could tell the Sussex duo to stay out of the UK for security reasons after Harry's blunder of naming his Taliban tally. That would leave the royal family off the hook for barring them. Yes, it would. And again, I think that's something where it's just the idiocy from Harry's perspective of he's increasing his own family security risk without the benefit of knowing perhaps that the royal family or that the government is reintroducing his internationally protected person status. That's just dumb. He's increasing his own security risk for what? What, do any of us, it's the thing with his frostbitten penis. Did any of us need to know his kill count? No. And I thought it was funny too that Omid Scobie was trying to defend Harry and putting the, you need the quotes in context. It's no. I don't care if he's talking about his military service. That is of course part of his life. And I would expect that in Memoir. The issue is that he put in his own freaking kill count. Regardless of what he said about how he reacted, he could always just say, I killed people during my service. It's something that I've had to deal with. It's difficult. Those type of things, I have no issue with him discussing. All the stuff around it, I have no issue with him discussing. It's the freaking number. That's the issue. That tells the Taliban how many, and they're wondering, well, now do we need to kill 25 members of your family? And again, he could be doing it to try to get that IPP status back, but there's no guarantee that he will. And I don't believe in rewarding stupidity. So if he's going to do his own stupid things, then he needs to clean up his own stupid mess. Because that was, so yeah, not inviting him, I think is muy bueno. Muy bueno. Okay. So Blessings Heavenly says grandchildren of the Sussexes don't need titles or Rachel to use. That's the worst thing he can do. Yeah. So I don't think, again, and Archie and Lily probably would not, like, they could only pass on like Lord and Lady. No, they could pass on the Earl title and somebody could eventually inherit Harry's dukedom. That's how it would work. Peggy Cole, were William and Catherine even dating in 2011? Well, they were married. They were married in 2011. So they weren't totally dating. They were engaged though. But I just thought that was because I had a 211 there at some point. So Zara, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. Thank you so much. So American Woman, I want H&M to stop blaming her boorish behavior on being American. Not all of us lack manners. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Like, he keeps saying, well, that's what Americans do. And I'm like, no, that's not. That's a weird Meghan Markle thing. It also makes him sound like he has no clue about any Americans. He has no clue about any Americans. It's like, you're living here. You live here now. And you have no freaking clue. No self-respecting American woman would walk up to a virtual stranger, you know, or an acquaintance, a casual friend, and go, hey, can I borrow your lip gloss? No. And that has nothing to do with being American. That has everything to do with like manners. It has everything to do with germs. Like, I'm not going to share my lip gloss with somebody I barely know. Even my sister, like my sister-in-law, even my sister. No offense to my sister, but I would be like, do I really have to? Do I have to? I mean, I'm also a person too, where it's like, I have a strong concept of personal space. So my personal space. So I don't know. It's just like, oh, yeah. And so I feel like every time Harry's trying to explain something Meghan does, he just goes, well, she's an American. She's an American. I was like, no. And even so with her meeting the Queen, and, you know, she did that, apparently that medieval style bow, although I feel like we've gone back to the version of their meeting where Fergie did teach Meghan how to curtsy, which they didn't mention the Netflix thing. So again, all their stories keep getting crossed all the time. And I feel like she always approached everything with a lack of respect. So she would walk in and she's getting introduced to the Queen, a woman of significant power, significant authority in the UK, a woman who's been respected for decades for her tireless service and duty to her country. And her response is, yay, I love grandmas. And I'm like, you sound so juvenile, so uncultured. She just, I feel like, epitomizes the stereotype people have of Americans, that they go to a different country, they want their way. They're unwilling to bend to the cultural norms of that country. They're unwilling to adopt new practices or learn things. Like, she epitomizes like the worst of American stereotypes abroad. And I feel like that's so incredibly crass and disappointing, especially for somebody. Bravo, Northwestern. You guys educated a winner there. A winner in like, it's like an antithesis of what you want if you're trying to sell your international studies program is Meghan Markle, because she makes it look just insanely pathetic. And again, you have to think too, when they were in Morocco, she barged ahead of Harry and met the king. Utter diplomatic faux pas, like to the nth level. Terrible faux pas. All right, Peggy Cole, the tree Harry said the miscarriage was only, the baby miscarriage is only indigenous to Florida, which is probably true. But I mean, plants move. Like, people can put plants in different places. So I'm not entirely against the idea that would happen, but, you know, perhaps not exactly as they would happen. Yeah, I could only, like, there's probably their truth, the truth, and there's their truth and there's the truth. And there's probably a truth to Harry, a truth to Meghan, and the actual truth, which is like 12 different things. So TMC, thank you so much for the super sticker. And you also said, good morning, lovely Brittany. Tom Bauer on Megyn Kelly said, Meghan Markle taunted Kate about the supposed Rose affair and had the phrase, what does it feel like to be a cuck comment. Oh, that's terrible. I hadn't heard that. My mom told me I needed to watch the Megyn Kelly show with Tom Bauer on it. Just so you guys know, in general, sometimes I try to more read the stories and react with my understanding rather than sometimes relying too much on watching and listening to other royal commentators. That way I'm not influenced too much by their opinion. So that way I'm always giving you my perspective. That's why I kind of, because sometimes you can listening to something and it kind of gloms onto you and you end up repeating it as if it's yours when it was actually somebody else's idea. I always try to attribute the ideas I have that I got from somebody else to whoever I got them from. But I did really enjoy Tom Bower's book. I thought it was excellent. And it sounds like he did a really good job. And it's like, again, that Meghan Markle would taunt Kate with that. I could totally understand it. And that the rumor did come from Meghan and Harry's side. Yes, I could absolutely see that happening for sure. All right, Jillian, thank you so much for the super sticker. And Trina as well. Thank you so much. You are so kind. Jacqueline Longo asked who advised him when he was writing this book. That's what I want to know. Who again, who is dumber? Harry for writing it or for Meghan for letting him write it and making them both look like idiots? I don't know. I don't know. Because it's just like, really? I thought this book was supposed to actually make you like, you're supposed to look better in this book. Now, granted, everybody can have something that they try to sweep under the rug, or, you know, that it's good to show your vulnerabilities and stuff. But what I feel like Harry and Meghan didn't understand is that when they were doing certain, like the way they put it still like confirms rumors. It makes them look bad. It makes them, even though they're trying to portray themselves. So like the whole lip gloss situation, I feel like Harry was trying to portray Catherine as cold. And it's like, no, she's pregnant. She's concerned about germs. She doesn't know Meghan that well. Like, it was just such an inappropriate thing to ask. And so it's like, why would you think that was a bad thing? Or that William recoiling from Meghan's hug. And it's like, well, in Britain, they don't hug. And so as much, it's just not a thing. They do the, you know, the side cheek thing. And that's, again, that understanding that different cultures have different ways of expressing, you know, affection. And so your job, if you're going into that country, is to learn that. And yes, sometimes people identify with what you feel like, but you don't push your demands on somebody else. You don't go into the Prince of Wales and give him a massive old bear hug. You know, it's like stage 4 huggers. Like, she has to hug him and squeeze him and, you know, do all these things with him. And he's like, who is this woman? Who is this woman who's just like trying, because they're trying to make, again, Meghan sound warm. But if you're thinking logically and you understand cultural differences, which Meghan apparently was oblivious to, it was incredibly rude. She is in their country. She needs to act like they act. Not totally, but she needs to, at least for a time, reflect their values, the way they interact with each other. And then maybe they'll reciprocate once they get to know her by being more open to a hug and those sorts of things. Those are things that grow and mature people know, that you just don't just barge in and go. It's kind of like barging into a company and their first day at the job telling everybody everything they're doing wrong. Now, granted, you can notice some things on the first day that you think are wrong, but mature people stand back and go, okay, I see, I don't like these things, but let me evaluate. Let me get more information. And then slowly but surely, maybe you can change things. But Meghan wanted everybody to conform to her and not change herself at all. And I feel like that's, you know, when you look at the book and it's like, you just go, why did you agree to be in something that makes you look so terrible? And just real quick too, in regards to the bridesmaids fitting, I thought it was really interesting that basically the book confirms what could be the worst version of that story. So the most extreme version I've heard of the bridesmaid stories, obviously we have a gamut. We have the tights, we have just, and on the other extreme, the story I heard is that Meghan and Jessica basically were poking at, you know, Charlotte and basically calling her fat. That is what I've heard on the Tumblr sphere and those sorts of things. And so, but you think about the story, Charlotte's dress showed up massively, massively huge. And so they have to redo it. And so Catherine is freaking out because she has a newborn at home and she has a wedding that's going to be watched by 1 billion people, and her daughter's dress doesn't fit and she puts it on her and she bursts into tears. And Meghan, I feel like, was trying to somewhat be accommodating and somewhat not, because it's like Catherine's like, I need this done now. I can't afford to go to 10,000 fittings for this dress. I need this done now. And I feel like she wasn't getting that response I think she expected from Meghan. And I wonder if Meghan brushed her off because Catherine went ahead and called Sarah Burton and from Alexander McQueen and said, Sarah, my daughter's dress doesn't fit. And they were like, it needs to be completely redone. And so I feel like Meghan is, so you get that sense almost that when Charlotte came in with this dress that was massively too big for her, it was a bag, it was a sack, it was too big and everything, that there could have been a moment where she was teased about that somebody maybe joked and called her fat. Like, you can see where that story actually has some basis in reality now. It's not just about the tights. It was about this other thing. So I just thought that was super fascinating. So Misplaced Southern says Harry's visa could be revoked over his actions. Yes, specifically his admittance to drug use in Courtney Cox's house of all places. With like not only the cocaine, but the shrooms and the marijuana. So, and the drinking. So he was loaded that night. So yeah, that was, yeah. So, but that could revoke. You're not supposed to, if you admit to drug use like that, generally you're not allowed to get a US visa, but I'm sure he's on some sort of specialty visa. Kids Relevant asks, how do you think William will treat Harry when he becomes king? I think William will be stricter with Harry in terms of, I think he'll cut him off. I think if William was king right now, the title would be gone. I think Charles is the holdout. I think William wants it gone. I think William, again, what was interesting is like, I wonder if after time, William was just sick of the toxicity of Harry, that he recognized growing up, and that Harry wasn't maturing, wasn't growing up. And although he loved his brother and still spent time with him, it sounds like William actually very much distanced himself from Harry as time went on. And so I wonder if after marriage, they just weren't even that close anymore, because William appreciated the stability and the lack of chaos being in the Middleton clan. So I think that was kind of interesting to consider. Ms. Marie Paris Haig, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. I hope you're enjoying this live stream this morning. Jamie asked, could any of these things they are doing being considered treason? Perhaps. I'm not sure exactly of the treason laws. And again, the British Constitution is not like the American one. It's not written down. So there's nuances to it. And so it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, I think. But I think if I was a politician and I was representing Sussex, I'd be like, get this title away from these people. We don't want them representing us, because they use it all the time. Of course, their last project was a big giant old flop. Their Live to Lead. So I don't know. Again, it's interesting to me because it could be something Netflix forced them to do because they weren't doing something, or something they were like, well, they needed something that was mostly done because they couldn't get anything together. So they glommed onto this, and Netflix is like, well, maybe your name will help sell it. It didn't. And that, again, is the thing. I don't think Harry and Meghan, again, they don't have the acumen, they don't have the talent to pull this thing off. Oh, Be-Level Baby, thank you so much. Buy yourself a hot chocolate. Thank you. I'm just surviving on Starbucks at this point. Ran all out of my Whittards. Whittards hot chocolate in the UK is the bomb, and their cinnamon stuff is the best. But at least last time I looked, it was sold out online. So I hope they bring that back, because that was really, really good. So Catherine Hardison asked, why are you giving Harry and Meghan any credibility? They are proven liars. And somebody asked me a similar question recently too. And I will just say, people do, yes, they lie. Yes, they're not telling the truth, but there's usually a kernel of truth in what somebody says. So the best thing to do, I feel like, is take what they said and twist it into what we also know to be truthful, or at least what we know makes sense in that situation. So I'm not totally, so obviously Harry and Meghan, yes, they lie. They lie a lot. But I do try to give people the benefit of the doubt when I can. And I try to deal with what they're saying is somewhat the truth, but also going, well, this could also be the case. So again, the German uniform. It could have been, again, a joke on different levels with Catherine and William, who thought Harry was joking or they were playing a joke on him or whatever. But Harry was still the one who wore it. And regardless of what they said or did, that was still Harry's responsibility. So again, because things can be true. And I also feel like too, sometimes I've noticed this on this channel. If I say anything bad about Catherine and William, it's like, the sky is falling, the world is ending. No. They deserve criticism too from time to time. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's healthy. It's healthy if you can criticize both the people you like and the people you dislike, because I feel like if you don't, then it becomes more perhaps worshipful, because, Catherine and William definitely aren't perfect. And so I feel like that is just a good thing. And I try to deal with things in context and in the realm of reality of human behavior that makes sense, if that makes sense. So Juliet Morgan, thank you so much for the tip. I don't want him back in the UK. I don't think you're alone there, Juliet. I don't think you're alone there at all. I don't think anybody wants them back in the UK in the slightest. I don't think they'll ever probably really, I don't even know why they would end up back there. They're just desperate. They're just desperate. Blessings Heavenly, question, trust. I believe royals will forgive Harry, but my immediate extended family member is huge. There's a difference between forgiveness and trust. Royals can never trust them. Yes, huge. You can forgive, and I think, again, that's healthy. But it's also healthy to go, this person has betrayed me, and I need to put up barriers between myself and them to make sure that I'm not falling for the same things that I did before, and making sure I'm distancing myself so I'm not putting myself in a position where I'm going to be thrown under the bus, or a private personal conversation is going to be blasted to the world. So the royals do have to go, okay, yes, we need to forgive Harry, because that's a good, responsible thing to do. But we also need to put up a distance between us and him, because we cannot trust him. Sally Simony, thanks for bringing an honest conversation to Americans about these two. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad my weird obsession with royals, which I think is so fun. So it's not weird to me, but I know other people think it's weird. Can help other people, because I love history, and I love that royals represent this line of history between the generations, which I think is just super, super cool. And I know not everybody enjoys that, but I do. So Jacqueline asked, how could Rachel make a comment on Catherine's hormones? Isn't she like a feminist? Yes, you would think. Yeah. You're not wrong there. She had a whole archetypes. Didn't she? She maybe didn't quite do an episode about that, but she could have totally done an archetypes episode on, being called hormonal, because but of course she can't. It's crazy. She can't do her own thing. About the hug thing, I think Meghan desperately wanted to hug William and charm him when she first met him. It didn't work. Poor Kate got blamed at it. I'm wearing your shirt now. Oh, I'm so glad. Yes, I'm going to do another order soon for the shirts. It's just been like with Harry's book and everything, it's just been like super crazy, and I'm trying to get the newsletter up and running and everything. So if you guys don't know, I have a Substack newsletter as well. I probably need to figure out how to rebrand it and everything, but I'll be getting more shirts out and ordering some more colors so I can try them, so you guys can know what, shirts because I don't want to, there's a red shirt that I want, but I want to make sure it's this nice, classy, deep red instead of like fire engine red. So I need to order it first, because I think it would look awesome in red. But yeah, I think too, like part of the charm and part of control sometimes, and you see this with what Meghan does with Harry, is touching him all the time. And so I'm sure that's a great point, that she wanted to charm William. She wanted to get him in her good graces. And she thought, okay, well, she does this, tries to at least start to do this through touch. And so she gave him a hug. She probably touched his arm. And he's like, I have personal space here. I don't appreciate you violating it. I don't appreciate you hugging me without, deference. And Harry was also the numbskull who was, in his mind, he was like, well, I don't need to tell Meghan to curtsy to William, because, this is just casual and he won't care. I think William did care. I think William cared a lot. And I think, again, it was one of those things where it showed respect and deference to do that. And Meghan, even if Harry said, well, you don't have to do it, Meghan's like, well, did you ask your brother that? Or, go ahead and do it, just so to show respect, shake his hand, and then let him lead in that situation. Because again, he is somebody you should respect. But Meghan wanted to treat them all like family, which means that she didn't have to agree to or adhere to this hierarchy, this curtsying, all these different things, and that some members of the family were higher and more respected than others. She didn't want to abide by that because she just wanted to treat Queen Elizabeth like she was just your average everyday grandma. I don't know about your grandma, but my grandma definitely didn't work until she was in her mid-90s and met, a bunch of prime ministers and those sorts of things. My grandma is awesome, but that was not, she still cooks up a mean meal, but she is not, she wasn't running, being the head of the state in multiple countries. That's not what she was doing. That's not what she's doing. So I feel like Meghan just wanted to treat them with a lack of respect. And she did not respect the institution, didn't respect their roles in it, just wanted to treat them like they were their normal everyday people. But she certainly loved the perks, didn't she? She really, really wanted the perks. Oh, Jessica, sorry, I'm late. No worries. I was actually late. I was a minute late too. I need to get better at it. But I'm really hoping to go, hopefully full time sometime here soon, because the lack of sleep really does get to me at points. So Janie says, I feel Harry is not well and that things at home are not good either. I've heard the RF are concerned Harry, what he might do if he becomes desperate when so isolated. So, and thank you so much for the tip. Yes, I agree. I think that the divorce will be devastating for Harry whenever it happens, because I have no doubt it will happen. I think it will devastate him. I would think it will be absolutely devastating. And I think it's so sad too that he's been so isolated now. That's the hard thing too. Not only will he be devastated, he'll be isolated. He's in another country. He won't have his family to go back to. He has to fly across the country and across the world. And then he misses time with his kids. Like, she's really trapped him in a really terrible way, I think, because he does not have that route out. He does not have a way to get out. And I just feel like that's so incredibly, incredibly sad. So Linda asked, did Meghan ask to use the stranger's lip gloss? Well, not a stranger, but she asked her sister-in-law or future sister-in-law, Kate Middleton, at an event right before they went on stage, hey, can I use your lip gloss? And which is just gross to me, because I mean, they don't know each other that well. I can't imagine asking an acquaintance, a future sister-in-law who I don't know that well, to asking for her lip gloss. And it just screams lack of professionalism. And I think shows as well this theme I've noticed throughout Meghan's entire time as a royal is that she's just incredibly sloppy. Like, her hair was sloppy at times, oftentimes her clothes were sloppy, they were wrinkled, they didn't fit, like yada, yada, yada. And this is like another thing where it's like, she was so sloppy, she didn't even have lip gloss. She was so disheveled in these situations, like she didn't even have something like that. So she had to ask her sister-in-law. Well, she didn't have to. She went ahead and did that. So Cece says the paternity is questioned only if the mother was unfaithful, yet Harold never blames Diana. She had him through puberty. She fully formed his character. Yes. So as wonderful as Diana was also a bit of a handful. And so I think Harry inherited a lot of that from her. So, and you also have the younger child syndrome and those sorts of things. So I think it's just a different set of circumstances. But yes, the Harry never blames Diana, because it would be Diana who was unfaithful in that situation. But of course, it's all Charles and how terrible he was and everything. And but no, neither Diana nor Charles were perfect in that marriage, in that relationship. And I know some people are asking for a DNA. But I mean, and I get it for succession reasons and to get Harry out of the picture, it's beneficial. But I think that would be immensely, immensely damaging to Harry in the process if he finds out like James Hewitt is his father. Not saying that it is. I think it is still Charles, because Harry does look a lot like Prince Philip. So I think, at least in some pictures, so I think that's something to consider. But I just think, I don't think the devastation that it would cause Harry would be worth it. I don't feel like it would be beneficial. And I say that as somebody who's investigated our own family tree, because my dad was adopted as a child. So I feel like it is, these are complicated family dynamics. So I just don't think it I don't think it behooves anybody to go down the DNA route test. That's just my opinion. Teresa, thank you so much for the tip. You are so kind. I like that. Miss Marie Paris. I agree. Who told them this book was a good idea? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who told them this was good, because they just look terrible in it. They look terrible in it. So, Jotters, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so, so kind. I really do appreciate it. So Beverly says they fired the ghostwriter, I believe. So I'm sure it was completed by the gruesome twosome. It definitely could have been. And I'm sure that the publisher was like, you need to get this done. And so they got it done. And again, I feel like they both look terrible because of it. I feel like they both look terrible. All right, Renee, thank you so much for the tip. I feel like everyone I read on the topic of this book are predisposed it is true. In my honest opinion, it should be in the fiction section. What say you? I do somewhat agree with that. And again, I haven't read the full book in its context, so we're only going off the tidbits that we've gotten. And I'm sure a decent amount of it is true, but I also think there's a decent amount of partial truths and misunderstandings. So if it could be in the half fiction, half nonfiction section, if such a thing exists, I think that would be appropriate. But if you're looking for a real understanding of what went on in the British royal family, I think that's not the best book. And what I thought was ironic is Harry in one of his interviews was saying, well, there's only one side of the truth and we need to get our side out. I was like, you're the only side that's out. William and Catherine have been utterly silent. They've only given little tidbits to the media here and there through their spokespeople. And I feel like Harry going on and on about how the palace leaks. It's like, yeah, no duh. Like, that's not new information. Like, that you're like categorizing this as like shocking, devastating, like that we all are like, oh, really? They leak information? It's like, well, of course they do. That's just good PR. Only a nitwit would believe that the palace doesn't leak stories or share stories of positivity about the royals, same as the White House, same as the PM's office, like any other government business position. Generally, yes, they do give anonymous sources to the press for good stories. That's just how it works. Marta says, it was said the palace has their own evidence of Markle talking about one plane crash away from the Queen. Why won't they use that and fight back? Again, it's just, don't get into the tit for tat. I think has been a remarkably good strategy. And if she did say that, maybe it'll get out at some point. But also think too, they're trying to protect, again, Harry. And like, what's so sad is that all the royal family in the palace have done in the last several years is protect Harry from himself. And that he doesn't recognize that is ridiculous. And because the palace can also only do so much to protect you from yourself. If your wife goes and blows $500,000 on a baby shower, guess what? That's going to look real bad. That's going to look real bad. No two ways about it. That's going to look terrible. And so, yeah, that's not going to go over well with anyone. So, but Harry, I feel like refuses to understand that. So, Mrs. Richie Blackmore says, if William and Catherine, were such massive Sue fans, why did they recoil from Meghan? Nothing lights up. Yeah, I think that's utter BS. I think that's utter BS to soothe Meghan's ego. Especially when Harry goes, well, now I wouldn't have to worry about them liking her. I'll just have to worry about them trying to get an autograph from her. And I'm like, okay, I feel like that just soothes Meghan's ego more than anything else. I don't feel like Catherine and William would do that. And honestly, even if they were fans, I feel like that should have come out at some point already, because that's a great anecdote to talk about the relationship as a foursome, is that, hey, actually, you know what? We actually were familiar with Meghan. We had watched her on Suits. So we were super excited to actually get to meet her in person and have this relationship. And so either I think it wasn't true, or my other option, which is probably my favorite option, is that they watched Suits and they hated Meghan's character. Because I heard her character, people loved to hate her character. So Beverly says, we do hug, but not on the first meeting. With friends, yes. Watch Catherine at the carol service. Yeah, it's definitely, there's hugs there, but it's just, again, a different thing. And so Meghan should have respected that and just she doesn't need to be a stage 4 hugger. She can, pull back a bit. It's fine. Jessica says MN's book. What else could she possibly say? They just keep making it worse for themselves and love Prince William and Princess Catherine more. Yeah, I don't know what they could do. Like, what would she add to this? Except for more BS about her childhood. Actually, I think Meghan's book would be the real work of fiction. I mean, I think Harry's deluded, but I think he is deluded in the way that he's so confused. He doesn't know what reality is. I feel like Meghan is more deluded in that she self-deludes and is aware of what reality is most of the time, or at least is convinced of certain things. So I feel like the true work of fiction is anything Meghan posts out. That's my opinion. Why keep talking about hemlines and tiara? There are some serious issues. Well, it is a serious issue. I think the tiara issue was serious and just, something to talk about. But they always have to push against whatever narratives in the media, so that they have to put out their truth against there again and again. Jenny Off, thank you so much for the super sticker. You are so kind. I hope you're enjoying this. Dana Maria says, I'm a hugger, but no way would I hug the future king and queen like that. Me neither. And again, too, it's like this maturity thing that I feel like Harry and Meghan are stunningly lacking, is this like basic maturity. And them going, okay, like Meghan going, okay, I'm just going to do this first. Like, let me know, how do you guys normally greet each other? Like, asking actual questions instead of just listening to Harry, who I feel like led her horribly through this royal thing. It sounds like it makes him look worse and worse, I think. Julia, thank you so much for the tip. I think they try to make Kate and her little girl look bad for the wedding. I think they did. It almost sounds like they legitimately, because like how hard is it to make a little girl's dress? Little girls, they don't have a chest at this point. They don't have hips. And so the changes that women's bodies go through, which makes clothing fitting harder and more difficult because everybody's body's different. That's not really the case as much for children. So this should have been like a really, really easy thing to do. And so you almost wonder if it was like purposeful sabotage that they purposely gave Givenchy like the ultimate and horrifically wrong measurements. Because I'm sure Catherine had her daughter accurately measured. Catherine is somebody who I think, and I think is great that she's like this, is somebody who's very, very focused on making sure that every time her children go out, they are utterly presentable and put together. That because she knows there's pictures taken of them, that those pictures will live in perpetuity. And so she wants her children to look the best they can as she does. So, because I will give Catherine mad props. I don't like everything she wears, but she always looks impeccable when she comes out. She always looks like her stuff doesn't generally wrinkle. It looks good on her. It generally looks well fitted. And so it does generally work on her. There's only one time where I thought that she was, looked like maybe she had a bad night with George. And it was when he was a baby. And that was the only time I ever thought like you could really see her gray hairs on top of her head. And she just looked very tired and stuff. That was only the one time I can ever think of where I thought Catherine didn't look utterly put together. I mean, she still looked great. Like the coat dress and everything worked. But I just felt like her appearance, that her hair was curled differently. It was just, she just looks very different. And I just felt like she looked like she can be jowly sometimes, and that it like really stood out in some of the pictures. And so I'm like, what the heck happened here? But that's only one time. I feel like that was Meghan every single time. And so Catherine is always very aware that she wants her children to look very, very good. Even if like behavior, they'll behave like kids, but they're impeccably dressed. They're impeccably put together because, again, she realizes those pictures will live forever. So I have no doubt that Catherine gave them the right measurements for her child. No doubt. No doubt. Asimo says, I think this is true. William didn't want to keep cleaning up after Harry. He realized protecting him didn't help. I think that's true. I think that after a while, William was like, I can't do this anymore. So he appreciated the stability the Middletons brought. JJQ3 says, I think Charlotte is going to be a Princess Anne style boss when she gets older, and Catherine's going to be a glorious queen. Yes, I agree. Thank you so much for the tip. And I think, yes, Charlotte will definitely be the next Princess Royal. And so it would be great, actually, if we got a picture of Anne and Charlotte together, like having a moment. I feel like that would be wonderful because they will be generationally connected. And so there's an event coming up. It's a rugby event between England and Scotland. So Anne is the patron of the Scottish Rugby Association. Catherine's the patron of the English Rugby Association. And so they're going to this game together. And wouldn't it be fantastic if Catherine bought Charlotte, and so Charlotte could be there between her mom and Princess Anne? Like, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Pia says, will his book even sell after everything is out? The book just confirms the level of vulgarity and delusions on Harold's end. So sad. I think it'll still sell. I think definitely it won't sell maybe quite as well because you can read it for free online. So why would you buy it? And it's just, yeah. It'll all just depend. Peggy says, silence is a betrayal is a quote by Martin Luther. Yes, I could totally see them pulling a quote from Martin. And in addition, it's just like the quote that they're attributing to him and using just doesn't even make sense in their situation, because it's not silence against oppression. It's silence against Harry and Meghan's own stupidity. Like, again, having a $500,000 baby shower, there's no excuse for that. That was just dumb. It was just dumb. All right, Regina, any passage among those leaked on, what does it mean to him personally to be in position of influence through charitable action or to be part of a historic lineage or serve in the military? I mean, I'm sure those tidbits are in the book, but obviously the publishers are going to go over with what sells papers and sensationalism things. So I really do feel like they leaned on that. And of course, that's always going to be the case. That wasn't always not going to be the case. So I'm sure we'll get, I hope, some better things once the book is actually released and we can read it. But looking logically at it as well, I think that at this point, we only have the vulgarity, and because again, did I need to know how Harry lost his virginity? No. Do I care? No. Does it help me at all? No. Like, do I empathize? Like, does that help me understand his character more? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Sugar Cookie says her wearing his mother's perfume at the first meeting played into his grief issue. And yet she knew nothing about him. Meghan is a master manipulator. Yes. And she also really played into his shadow self because she obviously went through his Instagram, and that's like a public image of what you think your shadow self is. What do you think you should actually be seen as? And so that's what she plays into. Beverly W, thank you so much for the super sticker, and as well to Orchid, thank you so much. So we'll wrap up here things in a minute here. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any other. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Katie, and then Rosina, thank you so much as well. So we keep going. There's so many comments today. I almost feel like I should start breaking these up into like a couple different ones or something, because I can't get to everyone's and I feel so sad. If Harry and Meghan go to the coronation, don't they have to pledge allegiance to the king? And how would that go down? So this is from KPP. Thank you so much for the tip. Yes, they would have to pledge, not pledge allegiance, but they would have to, pledge allegiance to Charles. So, but again, Harry and Meghan have nothing else. They have nothing else. So I think they'll go because they desperately need it. They desperately need something to connect them to the monarchy, because I think they clearly don't have any talent. I think they clearly don't. So it's just the idea that they won't go, I think, is ridiculous unless MI5 or MI6, like somebody says, no, you can't go. You're a security risk now. You made yourself a security risk. You can't go. And that'll be, I think, huge punishment for Harry and Meghan. Juliet, thank you so much for the tip. I make clothes for kids, and it isn't hard to make and do a good fit. Yeah, I would think it's totally easy. You don't have to deal with the different measurements of women and the complexities of that, because my sister may be getting married here before too long. And, it's like, you got the bridal fitting. So you don't go into a shop and just buy a dress. You buy a dress and then they fit it to you. If you do bridesmaids, kind of the same thing. You buy it and they fit it to you, because women are so different. Children, that's just not really an issue. It's more of like a height issue, and perhaps maybe somebody has maybe a bit of a long torso or something. But it's like, again, it's like general fit should be like simple. All right, Risha Jones, did Meghan do everything she could to make Catherine as uncomfortable as possible? Yes, 100%. I 100% think she tried to make Catherine as much as humanly possible uncomfortable. Everybody. And again, I think she was playing into her own, it's racism and stuff like that. But I also think at the same time, yeah, she enjoyed, I think, probably making people uncomfortable. Asma asked, did Prince Andrew know Meghan as a yacht girl? I mean, I don't totally subscribe to the notion that she was a yacht girl, but without, some good reporting behind that. But, could they have run into each other? Sure. And I think there was a tidbit where Meghan thought that Andrew was a servant or something because he held her handbag or something weird like that when she was meeting the queen. And then she was told later it was Andrew. And then Harry confirmed to Harry in his mind that she didn't know anything about the royals. And I'm like, no, he's like, she really didn't Google anything about us. So I was like, I think that makes her sound like an idiot, in my opinion. So I'm like, I don't know what you're kicking on about, but honestly, that doesn't make me think any better of Meghan at all. Annie, thank you so much for the tip. Love learning your royal insights, Brittany. And by the way, I think it shows the difference between having class and humility and grace and versus not. Does anyone want to donate to the H&M Foundation now, Archwell? No. That's a great point. No, like, why would you? And in the beginning too, I was like, why would you want to donate to them? You have no clue where your money is going. They're asking for donations, and then they give like $100 for a packet of bagels and coffee to somebody in DC, or they fly to Uvalde to give cheap snack food. So, like, on a private jet with security in front of cameras, Meghan, donates a thing of flowers. It's just ridiculous. It's just so ridiculous, and yeah, so it's just absolutely insane. I don't think, why would anybody want to donate to them? I don't think you get anything out of it. I think it's just something that's just really, really, really quite sad. Oh, right. Okay, so I was just going to look through and see if I saw anything on here real quick. Jane asked, will they cope having to sit apart at the coronation, not being able to hold hands to show how in love they are? Yeah, I think that'll hurt them if they go. Again, I'm just not sure that they'll go. I don't think it behooves them to go. I think it's just silly for them to go at this point. But again, that's their spiel. That's what they want to do. And I mean, I think, again, like I said, they desperately need content and they desperately need to stay relevant, and they have nothing else. They have nothing else. They've shown us they have nothing else. That Live to Lead thing bombed big time. It's hugely bombed. It was and I think it looked boring as all heck anyways, but I think, Meghan, I'm sure Netflix was hoping that, hey, maybe if we attach Harry and Meghan to this, maybe it'll do okay. And I think they were just finding out that wasn't the case. So it was just, an immense disappointment. And I think Harry and Meghan are just, I don't know what the point of this was. What is the point of this book? The point of a personal biography is to make you look good. And I feel like this book just makes them both look terrible. It makes them even less likable. I mean, they even confirmed it. Yes, they did share their baby news at Princess Eugenie's wedding. They did share it with everybody at the wedding. Like, they said they talked to, Charles and William and stuff one-on-one, and Catherine, but I think they probably did tell everybody. So I feel like it informs the worst that we've always thought of them. So I feel like this memoir is going to be an epic disaster for Harry and Meghan in terms of their already tanking PR image, which took a hit after the reality TV show and now will take another hit. And I feel like Harry just looks utterly the fool after all this. So guys, thank you so much for watching and tuning into this live stream. It was so great to be back with you guys. I'm so excited to be starting out this new year strong, hopefully. And I will work on getting a couple of other videos together. I got some ideas, and so I'm so excited. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you guys again so soon. All right. Bye. Have a wonderful Saturday or Sunday if you are in Australia and you lasted this long. If you aren't, no worries at all. But guys, have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Bye.